not so perfect, it's not my native language, so I apologize in advance for maybe potential mistakes. So before we start reading, we always say some prayers for invoking divine presence, and that with these prayers we can easily understand this knowledge. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Anadbhavanti Bhutani Parjanyadana Sambhavaha Yagyad Bhavati Parjanyo Yagya Karma Samudbhavaha. So we are reading third chapter, 14 verse. So maybe someone from you wants to read it again on Sanskrit. Okay, please, thank you. Read it.
Annad bhavanti bhutani paryanyada na sambhavaha yajat bhavati parjanyo yajnaha karma samudbhava.
Maybe someone else.
Annad bhavanti bhutani.
Agyan bhavanti bhutani.
Prajnat anam na sambhava. Yagnat bhavati prajyanto prajanyo.
Yagnat bhavati prajanyo.
Yagnat karma samudbhava.
Yagnat karma samudbhava.
Okay, so word by word. You can repeat with me. Anat.
Anat.
From grains.
From grains.
Bhavanti.
Bhavanti.
Grow. Bhutani.
Bhutani.
The material bodies.
The material bodies.
Parjanyat.
Parjanyat.
From rains.
From rains.
Anam.
Anam.
Of food grains.
Of food grains.
Sambhavaha.
Sambhavaha.
Production.
Production.
Yagyat.
Yagya.
From the performance of sacrifice.
From the performance of sacrifice.
Bhavati.
Bhavati.
Becomes possible.
Becomes possible.
Parjanya.
Parjanya.
Rain. Yagyaha.
Yagyaha.
Performance of yagya.
Performance of yagya.
Karma.
Karma.
Prescribed duties.
Prescribed duties.
Samudbhavaha.
Samudbhavaha.
Born of.
Born of.
Translation. All living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. So maybe someone wants to read purport?
I would read.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivendanta Swami Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Srila Baladev Vidyabhusana, a great commentator on the Bhagavad Gita, writes as follows. Okay, I'm gonna script this wrong in the Sanskrit part.
Okay.
The Supreme Lord, who is known as the Yagya Purusha, of the personal beneficiary of all sacrifices, is the master of all the demigods, who serve him as the different limbs of the body serve the whole. Demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Varuna are appointed officers who manage material affairs, and the Vedas direct sacrifices to satisfy these demigods so that they may be pleased to supply air, light, and water sufficiently to produce food grains. When Lord Krishna is worshipped, the demigods, who are different limbs of the Lord, are also automatically worshipped. Therefore, there is no separate need to worship the demigods. For this reason, the devotees of the Lord, who are in Krishna-consciousness, offer food to Krishna and then eat, a process which nourishes the body spiritually. By such action, not only past sinful reactions in the body vanquish, but the body becomes immunized to all contamination of material nature. When there is an epidemic disease, an antiseptic vaccine protects the person from the attack of such an epidemic. Similarly, food offered to Lord Vishnu and then taken by us makes us sufficiently resistant to a material affection, and one who is accustomed to this practice is called a devotee of the Lord. Therefore, a person in Krishna consciousness who eats only food offered to Krishna can counteract all reactions of past material infections, which are impediments to the progress of self-realization. On the other hand, one who does not do so continues to increase the volume of sinful actions, and this prepares the next body to resemble hawks and dogs, to suffer the resultant reactions of all sins. The material world is full of contaminations, and one who is immunized by accepting prasadam of the Lord, which is food offered to Lord Vishnu, is saved from the attack, whereas one who does not do so becomes subject to contamination. Food grains or vegetables are factually eatables. The human being eats different kinds of food, grains, vegetables, fruit, etc. And the animal eats the refuse of the food, grains and vegetables, grass, plants, etc. Human beings who are accustomed to eating meat and flesh must also depend on the production of vegetation in order to eat the animals. Therefore, ultimately, we have to depend on the production of the field and not on the production of big factories. The field production is due to sufficient rain from the sky, and such rain are controlled by demigods like Indra, sun, moon, etc., and they are all servants of the Lord. The Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices. Therefore, one who cannot perform them will find himself scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yagya, specifically the Sankirtana Yagya prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply.
Thank you. So, once more the verse. All living bodies subsist on food grains which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by performance of yagya, sacrifice, and yagya is born of prescribed duties. So now we will continue with our prayers, Mangala Charana. So you can, if you don't know them but you want to sing with us, you can find it in introduction of Bhagavad Gita. It's written here. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapita Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahangamalalata Shri Vishakam Nitam Sham Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padar Vishnu Prishta Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivendanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashakyadeshatari. So thank you all for coming once again. In previous verses and lectures, we spoke about the demigods and yagyas and the difference between demigods and Krishna. So we spoke also that we actually didn't create anything in this material world. So that everything is just like given to us for temporary time, and we actually don't possess anything. For example, we can build a house, we can use bricks and some other ingredients, but it's not that we create these ingredients. We just borrow them from the nature, and it helps. It's helping us to like build a house in which we will also live, but temporarily. One day we should say goodbye to this house and go on in some other life or somewhere else. So everything is here just like to help us, but not that we possess these things. So everything in this world actually belongs to Krishna, God. If you have some other maybe name of God, you can also, when I say Krishna, remember that name. Like every name is bona fide, it describes the nature of God. Krishna means all attractive, so Vedic knowledge says that it's bona fide name for God because he's really like that. He attracts everyone by his beauty, sweetness, and like the best qualities. So yeah, everything in this world belongs to him because he is the main creator and the main possessor of everything. So we also said that we as Vaishnavas, we don't need to do some rituals, or we don't need to offer things to the demigods like God's servants, and we do not need to do some other kinds of worship. For example, in India, there are popular different pujas, like for invoke auspiciousness or money, something. We don't need to do that because we are worshipping the source of this, the source of all opulence, the source of all beauty, the source of all the best in this world, and that is Krishna, God himself. So therefore, in the purport of this verse, Srila Prabhupada confirms this state, and he spoke here also about these things that he mentioned in previous purports. So he say again that if we worship Krishna, then also the demigods who are also who are different limbs of the Lord, they are automatically worshipped. Like who was on this lecture before 2 weeks, you maybe remember that we mentioned that we have roots and different branches, and we can say that Krishna God is the root and branches are like different demigods. So if we worship the root, then all the whole tree is nourished. And we also talked about prasadam. Prasadam like literally means mercy, but in this case, when we are talking about prasadam, we are talking about the food which is offered to God. So which we offer to altar, and then we are honoring it, we are eating it after Krishna accepts it. So maybe you remember last time Carl gave a nice presentation why it's so important to offer food and why it's so important to eat prasadam. So when I was preparing this lecture, I had some things on my mind about what I would like to talk, but somehow I again end up on prasadam, and some leelas, some pastimes with prasadam again came on my mind. So what to say, it's probably Jagannatha's influence, because this deity specifically, this form of God, likes to eat and likes to accept offerings from his devotees. So sometimes, maybe you heard this, but sometimes people call the Hare Krishna movement kitchen religion. Have you heard this? Yeah, so it's because we are recognized, like food that we prepare is recognized. Okay, it's nice and tasty, but people see something is different from this food and maybe the food they eat in restaurants. And it's not just a flavor, it's something more deep. And the reason is because this food is offered to God with love and with appreciation. And the main reason is because Krishna tasted this food. And it says that prasadam is actually the nectar from Krishna's lips. And can you imagine this? It's amazing, like nectar that came from God's lips, and he gave us as mercy, as his remnants, so that we can be happy. And all this food that has got in contact with him automatically becomes spiritualized. And in that moment, this food is not different from him. Because he touched it, because he tasted, the food gets these qualifications and becomes spiritualized. So maybe we should think for a moment about this sentence. Like, prasadam is actually the nectar of lips, of Krishna's lips. So that's why, because of that, glories of prasadam are innumerable, and we can see how sometimes people really change by the influence of prasadam. For example, there was lots of situations where some parents or friends, they didn't like Krishna-consciousness, or they were not so spiritual maybe, but when they were eating prasadam for a long time, their heart really changed, and they start reading books, and maybe it's not maybe it's something good, maybe food is good, so maybe there is something more also. So also I know one example. My friend, she was distributing books on the street, and she met one person, and this person said that he was devotee long ago, but he's not practicing anymore spirituality and bhakti-yoga. And she asked him, okay, can you say what you miss the most from bhakti-yoga? Is there something that you'll still like? And she said that this person just started speaking about the glories of prasadam, and then he was so ecstatic in these descriptions. So it's like, or maybe when we meet someone, for example, when we are in Harinam or in Sankirtan, then people ask sometimes, do you have these bowls or this food? Because, and once also in Zagreb, my hometown in Croatia, one guy came and he asked, is this offered? This food. Because these glories are spreading by the taste and by stories. So, you know that song, Sharira Vidya Jal, that we usually sing before taking prasadam? It's Sharira Vidya Jal, Jodindriyata Hekal, you know the rest. So this is the song from Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually, and it belongs to his group of songs in the book Gita. And in this book, he described Glories of Prasadam and what Prasadam really means for us. There is also one joke about this song. Maybe someone knows. It says like, if you want to put the devotees to sleep, which song you start singing? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, like it's then time for reading and things. But if you want to wake up devotees, then you sing Sharana Vinita. And then, oh, it's Prasadam time. I'm here now. So I will read translation. So we are usually singing this song always before taking prasadam, taking food, so that we remember why we are taking food and what does it mean to eat it and things like that. So it goes like this. Oh brothers, this material body is a network of ignorance, and the senses are one's deadly enemies, for they throw the soul into the ocean of material sense enjoyment. Among the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and verily wicked. It is very difficult to conquer the tongue in this world. And now, positive part is coming. Oh brothers, Lord Krishna is very merciful. Just to control the tongue, he has given us the remnants of his own food. Now please, eat these nectarian grains while singing the glories of their lordships, Sri Radha and Krishna, and in love call out, Chaitanya Nitai. So as Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Krishna is so merciful, and he knows how weak we are and maybe not so good in some austerities. For example, when we look at previous ages, we see that people do many austerities. For example, in Shastra it says that people were like meditating in a cold river for months or for years or for 1,000 years to get some benefit, or just like we can imagine just sitting, like for example 12 hours in this pose. Oh, it looks so hard. Maybe it looks easy, but when we sit for 5 minutes, we are like, oh, when this will stop? Something is like, I need to do this or this. We feel that it's not so comfortable. So, yeah, and maybe for some of you, this is good. Maybe someone was yogi in previous life, so now it's easy to do some maybe these hard austerities, but like globally, we just want to like that it's comfortable, that we are doing nice things and that it's fun. So austerities are not so popular. And Krishna, because of that, because he knew that it's Kali Yuga, it's this age of quarrel and that quarrel and hypocrisy. Because of that, because he's so merciful, he gave us prasadam, and he gave us his mercy, that by eating we are doing spiritual activity, and we are doing austerities just by eating prasadam. And this austerity is very nice. What do you think? Like, eating is austerity in this yuga. So, and also by eating this prasadam, we are protected from material influence, and also we are making spiritual advancements. So, because we are in direct contact with Krishna by this food. It's not like ordinary food, it's non-different from him. So we can also see many examples in the Shastras about the power of prasadam, and I would like to say a few. The last one is a little bit scary, so few of these first two are nice, so prepare yourself. For example, when Narada Muni, one of the sages in our line, when he incarnated, come in his life as Narada Muni, when he was a small boy, his mother was a maid servant who were engaged in the service of brahmanas who were following Vedic knowledge and practicing Krishna-consciousness. And he served them, and he also ate their remnants from their food. and also received blessings from them. And he said in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, then that when he was eating these remnants, this Mahaprasad, that he purified himself from all sins, and he attained perfection in the end of that life. He got his spiritual body, and he became like absorbed in Krishna consciousness, absorbed in transcendence forever. Even now, it says that he's traveling universes and singing glories of Radhika Raman, of Krishna. And so this is one example, like how by eating prasadam we become purified and all our sins disappears. And there is also one very nice narration about Ramanuja Acharya. Ramanuja Acharya is one of acharyas, spiritual masters, founder Acharya, let's say, of Shri
Vaishnavism.
Yeah, Shri Vaishnavism. Can you maybe say the three more?
It's like Vaishnavas, Shri Vaishnavas, and then yeah, there are three sects, I guess. Four. Okay.
Yeah, it's like we have four Vaishnava Sampradayas.
Yeah.
One came from Sri Lakshmi, so it's Sri Sampradaya. We have Brahma Sampradaya, that's Sampradaya that ISKCON is in it. Srila Prabhupada belongs to Brahma Sampradaya, it came from Brahma. Then we have Rudra. It's but it's like also Vaishnavism. Yeah, it's not. It's also like Krishna is the main person, and Shiva is his servant. But Shiva gave this knowledge to Vishnu Swami, who is the founder Acharya of that Sampradaya, and also Nimbarka Sampradaya from four Kumaras. So, but here we are speaking about Ramanuja Acharya. He's the founder Acharya of Shri Vaishnava Sampradaya. So once he was walking with his 5 sannyasis disciples. Sannyasi is the person who is in renounced order, really detached from this world, who lives in celibacy and is 100% dedicated to spiritual things and Krishna consciousness. And while he was walking with his disciples, at one moment he stopped by a pond and just threw some Maha-Prasadam in the water for the fish. And immediately in front of the eyes of all disciples, this fish assumed 4-handed form and rose up in the air, returning home back to spiritual world. And these sannyasis were astonished and confused, like, what just happened? And they asked Ramanuja Acharya, please Guruji, explain us, what have we just seen? What happened with this fish? It was like totally crazy for them. And Ramanuja Acharya was like calm and a little bit like grave and severe, and he just with peaceful voice said, you've just seen the power of Mahaprasad. And they asked Ramanuja, but Guruji, how come that we eat your remnants every day and we are still here in material world? And this fish, she ate just once and immediately she attained perfection. How is it possible? And we can maybe ask also this question, because we are also eating every Wednesday here from Jagannatha every day at home, prasadam, and why we have destiny that is different from that fish. And then Ramanuja Acharya said, creatures like fish have no free will and therefore make no offenses. But you, with your free will and human intelligence, make offenses, and thus you hinder your own progress. So I would like to discuss this a little bit. For example, sometimes I like to say that everything is in our consciousness. So sometimes we take things for granted. We are, for example, maybe eating prasadam, but we don't think that it's like we don't believe maybe, or it's not so important for us that this prasadam is really remnant from Krishna. And also, for example, we have Bhagavad Gita, which is in front of us, and okay, we read it, we appreciate it, but do we really understand that this is like the key for going back home? That this is that these instructions are really divine. That it's Krishna inside, because Krishna's words and Krishna is not different. Again, one from each other. And my friend from Slovenia, she said something very nice when she was going to distribute books. She said, whenever I give book to someone, the deity is coming to the house of that person, because these are pictures and it's like words inside. So also some other examples, maybe when we are chanting japa, we are putting our fingers on these beads, and it says that when we are chanting, that these beads are non-different from the lotus feet of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when we think about it, it's really amazing, and that's why, because we are just take these things for granted and don't think about them, or just like while chanting we are focused on some other things, or while eating we talk about, I don't know, some maybe not so important things in that moment, or I don't know, watch TV or something, then we cannot get the full benefit of these things. Of course, some purification is taking place, and these things work on us positive, but if we just become so consciousness about every moment, for example in New Age or this New Age philosophy, they call it like be present, be in this moment. So also when we are doing these things in Krishna consciousness, it's very important to be here and now and appreciate whatever is happening around us and where we are. Because wherever this book is, wherever devotees, Tulsi or deities, this place is a spiritual world. So yeah, I always forget it, so that's why by this lecture I also want to remind myself on these things. And it's nice in one temple, they have Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, on the altar. And in the morning, when Mangalarati, the morning program starts, they bring Srimad Bhagavatam to the altar. And while Srimad Bhagavatam is coming, then all devotees like stay with folded hands and offering obeisances to Srimad Bhagavatam. Because it's also our main book, it's also Krishna's words inside and descriptions about Krishna from pure devotees. So it's also non-different from him. And it's also, as I said, our key for spiritual world. Japa and Srimad Bhagavatam and Prasadam. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing his leelas, his pastimes on this planet, you know, when he was in the house of Srivas Thakur, they were they usually when they were together they did two things. Someone knows which two things Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like did with his followers and
Making prasadam.
Yeah, prasadam and singing.
Yeah.
Singing, glorifying Krishna, and then when they become tired, then they eat. And then after they finish prasadam, then they sing again. And it's like they never become tired to this degree that they go to sleep. When they become tired, then just take some prasadam and energy again, and rice and like prasadam and chanting. So it's so beautiful, so simple way to get spiritual benedictions, like singing and eating. And now for the end, I have one funny story that came from Rajapur. Maybe someone from here have been in Rajapur, this temple in India. Okay, good then I think you will be very happy to hear this lila. In Rajapur, there are deities, Jagannatha, Baladev and Subhadra. and they're very special. They're like older deities, and they perform many leelas in different ages. So this story that I will tell you. Don't be afraid in the beginning. In the beginning it's a little bit scary, but the end is very positive. And you will see how Krishna do all these things just to invoke love in his devotee's heart. So once, one rickshaw driver, you know what rickshaw are. A rickshaw is this car from India. When you are driving on rickshaw, you don't know will you survive the ride, but it's like it's nice. So people usually when they are in India and Vrindavan, they go with rickshaw on different locations. So one rickshaw driver came to this Rajapur temple, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra temple, and he took some khichari, prasadam for himself and his friend who was Muslim. And when he gave this prasadam to his friend, because he was Muslim, he didn't appreciate this prasadam, and he just threw it on the ground and said, "I don't accept anything which is offered to the idols." And he went home and he went for a sleep. And that night, Baladev is the white deity on the altar, and he's in spiritual world, he's Krishna's brother. He has the role of Krishna's brother, and he came in the dream and started beating this Muslim and strangling him like, how dare you to throw Mahaprasad which is offered to my brother. Do you know who he is? He's the Lord of all universe, and when you eat this Mahaprasad, you are actually worship him. By honoring Mahaprasad, you worship my brother, and you just threw it away. I will kill you. And he just continued to beat him and like very aggressively. And then Subhadra appeared. And Subhadra is like usually calm and very soft person and nice. She's female. She has this female energy. And in that moment, she said like, "Yes, kill him!" And he was like continuing this mood with Baladev, and in the end, Jagannatha also came, and he was also laughing, but because he knew how Balaram is sometimes has protective nature for his brother, because he's older and he needs to take care about Krishna and he loves him so much. So he was also laughing, but then he said, "Okay, don't kill him. It's okay, I forgive him." And in that second, this person, he woke up, and he was like, "Oh my God, what just happened?" And he ran in that moment to the temple, and he offered obeisances to Lord Jagannath. And he said, "Please forgive me, I didn't recognize you. You are my God. You are Jagannath, the Lord of the universe." And he went to the pujari and he told him what happened, the whole story. And he asked him, "Please, do you have some Mahaprasadam to give me? Please, I want to honor Mahaprasad, I want to honor these remnants from Jagannath." And pujari said, "Oh," he was like shocked with the story, but he said, "I'm sorry, nothing is left. Nothing has left now. I don't have any prasadam here." And this person, he was like, "Oh, please, there needs to be something. Please." He was like pleaded him, and pujari said, "Okay, I will search." And he went to the kitchen and he searched the pots, and he found a little bit in the pot, like something was there, like stayed that they didn't see. And then he gave this man, and this man ate it and become ecstatic and become really like so devoted to Jagannath. So maybe in the beginning this story like is like, "Oh my God, God is doing this. He's beating me, and he wants to kill me, and he's like exclaiming, "I will kill you, I will kill you." But in the end, even this story, when Krishna is doing it, it's very sweet because he just wants our love, and he will do whatever he needs to do to conquer our hearts, and that he comes in our heart, and that we come again. But we are always in his heart, but that we, by our will, come in his heart. So, yes, Prasadam Leelas are always very funny and inspiring. So I would like to stop here because Prasadam is in another room and is waiting for us. And it's nice that now when we spoke a little bit more about Prasadam with Carl and with me, that we now when Prasadam comes, that we during the eating maybe think about all these things, and if something's fall on the floor, that we grab it so that Balaram will not appear in our dream. And maybe someone has some comment or question or something before we start to eat.
I actually have a question. It's about I think for the guru teacher. I don't know English word right now, but I know the word parampara, but I think you use sampradaya. So is there a difference between these two words, or is it just the same?
No, it's the same. Disciplic succession. Sampradaya or parampara. No. Yeah, but no, sorry. Sampradaya is there are different sampradayas, different, let's say, schools. For example, the Brahma Sampradaya that we are in this has their own acharya, and for example, Ramanuja acharya, he has his own let's say school, and but parampara is disciplic succession of, for example, Ramanuja acharya has his own disciples. And Brahma Sampradaya has his own disciples, and for example, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, and some guru from ISKCON. This is parampara. But Sampradayas, do you understand me, or I complicate it so much? Yes, so Sampradayas are different school, and parampara is the line of the teachers in one Sampradaya.
Mm-hmm. The lineage.
It's
That's the lineage. So basically, parampara is more like a family. It's like a family tree.
Yeah.
And then sampradaya is more like the practice.
Yeah, like this.
School of thought.
Yeah, it's cool.
Is it okay? Okay, thank you. Yes.
So the question here was if yeah, okay.
Wenn man Ganesha Opfergaben gibt, dann heißt es nicht Prasadam, oder? Oder ist Prasadam immer der Ausdruck für geweihtes Essen? Oder ist es nur Prasadam, wenn Krishna das geweiht gesegnet hat?
So the question is, if you offer food to Ganesh or another demigod, is this also prasadam, or is prasadam Krishna prasadam?
Because Ganesha is the servant of Krishna, he likes that we offer food first to Krishna, and then we can offer it to Ganesh, take remnants of Krishna, and then Ganesha will be in ecstasy. But we, because we are devoted to Krishna, we want it only Krishna Prasad, because it's like he's our favorite, he's our God.
Yes, I know.
Okay?
First Krishna, but my Ganeshas and Shivas and Hanumans want to eat prasadam too, so I give
That's
it
good.
to Krishna, then to Ganesha, Hanuman and Shiva, then I can.
Then they are in ecstasy.
Then but my half-gods want to eat too, so they must have prasadam too from Krishna.
But first for Krishna.
First Krishna, I know.
Okay. then everything is okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
jai. Prabhupada ki jai.
Yeah, I see this